All right. Automating success, Phil followers, Joe Langton followers. I am so excited to finally have gotten Jake and Benjamin from Echo on the show. This has been a long time coming. They are literally the favorite partnership I have in the space, hands down. They are as passionate about the things I'm passionate about as anyone else I know. So, first, thank you both for being on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank
Awesome.
you.
Yeah, awesome. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow each one of you, since I don't normally do it where I have two people on one show, but it's like with Echo and the type of support I have from the brand, I could probably have a dozen people or half a dozen at least on the show. So I'm going to let you guys introduce each other separately. So Benjamin, I'm going to start with you. Please introduce yourself to the people that are listening to the show today and let them know who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Benjamin Houssa. I'm a VP for robotics at Echo Incorporated. I'm originally from Belgium, and you'll notice my Frenchy accent. Um, I've been at Echo for just 3 years now, but before that, I was at the headquarters in Japan. So I moved from Japan to the US to take over the responsibility for robotics and to develop the North American market. In a previous life, I used to be in the automotive industry doing automation for automatic transmission. So I've been in automation for a while.
Awesome. So speaking of your accent, how many languages do you speak?
So there's the speaking one, and then there's the other one that I understand a little bit or that I can get through. But basically, the one I would say I'm comfortable to do business with is English, French, Japanese, and a little bit of German. But then I have some knowledge in other languages. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have
speak like 7 languages.
Yeah. So I have to tell people when I do shows with Echo and I see people come from all these different countries and they're speaking different language. All of a sudden, Benjamin comes over and he's like right there. It's awesome. That's why I had to bring it up. I'm always so impressed by people that are at least bilingual, and you got Benjamin over here, like pretty much worldwide speaker here. So it's pretty awesome. So Jake, go ahead, let the audience know who you are and what you're passionate about.
So I've been with Echo for about 6 years. And I've only been in the automation space. I've only been in the robotics space the whole time. Started out, when there was really no product to sell yet. We were starting to bring it over from Europe. And I've got to see the progression all the way through the side panels, the charging station, all of this stuff we've done for compliance to get it to the market. And then the maturation of the product in the market itself, through my role as the national sales manager for North America. My background is in turf. I worked on golf courses. I got a degree in horticulture from Iowa State. Went to work in golf and kind of matured my way through the space to get to automation. And it's been a wild ride, as you well know, Joe. You've been a part of it. So it's a good time, and it's really it's a space that's full of really interesting people and very passionate people, and that's fun to be a part of.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's why I get so excited about doing shows like this today. A lot of times people don't realize when they finally notice the space, right? Like I think the fact that we've got pattern, RTK, and this is the stuff that people were waiting for, but they don't think about where it started, right? So it's like for me, starting with you guys, we're doing wired systems and we're talking about flooded AM field and we're like dreaming of the day for us to get to where we are. And I just think there's some days I almost look back at the flooded AM frequency days and like, wow, it was so easy, right? But it's an accumulation of great, passionate people that are just constantly building the space. And you guys are two of the people that I've been doing it with. So it's like I said, people can probably see how excited I am to have you guys on. So, Benjamin, you said that you came from the automotive space. Um, so how many years basically have you been dealing with automation then?
Well, I spent 15 years in the automotive industry, and my main target or my main goal or job was to take care of automatic transmission. A lot was related to software and also really adjusting the software to the users, the drivers. And so when I moved to Yamabico, I took another role for a while and being involved in the sales and marketing. And then when they asked me to go to the US and to focus on the robotics, it was just like, yeah, great. That's exactly where I liked. I like the making sure that what we provide is really according to what the user's expectation is, and trying to keep developing into making this product as closer to what the expectation are. And so this is what we've been doing. As you mentioned, we started several years ago where the robot was still using a wire around and the robot was bouncing randomly. And that was a tough time to explain to the US market, because in Europe, it was kind of very common because it comes from the residential and this is what it was. But in the US, people expect to work differently. And so we've been trying to bring technology to develop the software in order to really meet the expectation of this market. And I think we're getting really close. I mean, there's always improvement, but at least now we are at the point where it makes sense to everybody that listen to us and say, oh, yeah, I was waiting for that. And so this is where we are.
Yeah, I asked how long you were in automation for a reason for people listening, and it's because what I find in, either of you can expand on this, but in our space that we're in, people are like, oh man, it's crazy where we're at now. But they don't realize automation has been in their lives for decades already.
Yeah.
And it's just that now we're automating a space that hasn't really been automated yet. So I don't think people do a good enough job or take the time to understand that the people that are automating this space, the engineers that are automating this space, have already engineered automation in other spaces. So even though it's new to the space, automation isn't new. It's just new to this space, right?
Exactly.
Do either of you want to expand on that thought?
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, if you really count all the years, I mean, 15 years in the automotive industry, 9 years at Yamabico / Echo. So yeah, that's 24 years of automation that I have, and I'm always thinking, how can I improve whatever I'm working on? Automation is something that is not stable. It has to move always, because there's always a different expectation. There's always higher expectation, but there's always also a compromise that we have to go through in the beginning. And the first compromise was, well, it's not going to make the pattern that you want because it's going to be random. And then we see that, oh, it has to be pattern. So, okay, how do we get to this one? And you need to go step by step. So the standstill is not something that exists in automation. And what we have today is the beginning of what we need to have for tomorrow. So really, it's important for us to make sure we listen to the customer, whether it's you as a intermediate customer or the final users who's playing and taking care of this robot, but also trying to understand how new technology can be integrated in these products that we have, and that we have this synergy and we meet in the center. And we also need to make sure that the expectation is somewhere we are targeting. It's not what you're going to get today, but the target is really to go towards this, I would say, this dream or this expectation. And as you mentioned in the beginning, say 2-3 years ago, we were dreaming of what we have today. And I'm sure that today you're dreaming, and I am dreaming of what we will have in 2-3 years from now.
Yes.
So, and that's really important. And this is the thing I like to work with my team and really challenging them on a regular basis. And the challenge can be a small one, but is the challenge is regular, and a small challenge at the time, a little victory will bring where we are today. It will bring us where we will be tomorrow. So that definitely, that's what, and that's the excitement. There is nothing that is, okay, it's a done deal and we can forget about it. It's not only the competition is going to get better as well, but it's just that the expectation is higher every day.
Well, and the thing about any type of automated system, it's all about feedback, right? Like people always think automation is just an output, but without inputs, there is no output. So in order for the space to evolve, it just has to start to get used. So when you look at the random pattern technology, a lot of that stuff, when you look at communications and app communication and tracking the systems and the alarms and stuff like that, that would have never gotten honed and shaped better to support the pattern that we have, the pattern mowing and cutting and picking that we have now, had we not started somewhere, right? And that's the thing that I want and encourage anybody listening to the show today is the only way we get to our hopes and aspirations 3 years from now is by utilizing what we have today and then growing as partners. And that's been what's great about this partnership is how much I feel like we have grown together in a partnership. So, what's that?
I'd like to add one thing, and I remember the first visit I did with you in Florida. I was in end of 2021. We were to the Ibis Club.
Yeah.
And I remember that now we are picking the ball there. So we had 4 ball picker picking the ball. And this where like everybody was excited. Yeah, it's picking up the ball. And then we figure out that, yeah, picking the ball is not enough. We need to go further. And this is where I think after that, when we had the PGA show, we introduced you to partners from Europe and you start working with them in order to bring the ball management system that you have today. So it has to start somewhere so that people realize, well, the next step has to be this one. And then we need just to figure out how we get there. But yeah, it's true. We have to start somewhere. And I think people usually they want to have the final product and the latest one, but it's sometimes better to start with an older one or the one that is existing today and working well today to figure out how you involve in this new technology. And I think, yeah, as you mentioned, our partnership has been great because we've been having this feedback from us pushing you some new technology or from some new product and you coming and say, well, my customer wants something different. This is what they want. I'm different because I have a different business model than other users. I need this type of information from you. And by doing this little, you challenge us, we challenge you, we'll bring basically a better product and a better solution for the final users.
Well, I'm going to get to the Ballwash later on, but let's. So I appreciate your saying to bring that because I'm also very excited. But to take us down this road and this pathway of evolution, this will kind of get me to Jake's side a little bit with the turf and agronomy background. I remember when we first partnered, the ball protection disc was really made for cool season grass because, of course, there's a lot of cool season grass in Belgium and Germany and where all this stuff's coming from, right? And talking about Florida, really when you look at Ibis Club, it actually started with 4 pickers and 2 cutters. And since they were in subscription model in Ibis Club, when we put those cool season discs in Ibis, superintendent at the time didn't like the cut of those cool season discs. And thankfully, because we were in subscription, it was not a big deal. I took those mowers. It was very easy to reallocate them someplace that they would be appreciated at the time. But then, through feedback and through you guys coming to Florida and through pictures and constant communication, you guys developed a new ball deflection protection. It actually kind of went from deflection, really, when you think about it, to protection, in my opinion, the way the new disc is. And now I have golf courses in Florida basically saying, hey, I got to figure out how to automate the whole golf course because my driving range looks better than the adjoining hole, right? Yeah. And this is through feedback in the partnership to not say, hey, this is just what it is, to say, hey, we can get it where we need to get it. We just have to work together and not have unrealistic expectations. So, speaking of, the range is sometimes now looking better than the actual hole. Jake, why don't I get you a little more involved too with the agronomy side? I mean, what is it that obviously you came from a space and you got into selling the robotics with Echo, and we all have to be passionate about what we're doing and want to keep doing it. So even back when it was random technology, what is it that you saw in the Echo cutters that you knew you could help the space that you were already a part of?
Well, I think the main thing with it way back when we were just working with random is you get what the robot gives up and what automation gives up in first pass quality of cut. Because if you compare a quality cut for pretty much all the automation we're talking about versus a standard mower or a standard reel mower or anything like that, it doesn't look the same. It's not as good. The first pass with ours is not as good, and that's true, I think, of all robots in the space. But what it gives up in that first pass, it makes up in relentlessness. And that's the beauty, is it's always going to work. It's got a one-track mind. All it wants to do is charge itself and go cut. And when you do that over and over and over again, you mimic kind of that daily mowing that is so important to really quality turf stands that you see on fairways or you see on greens. They're daily mowing those. And when you daily mow something like that, you have a tendency to take less of the grass plant off at a time. So you're getting to it a lot better. So you're not hacking off a bunch of green tissue. Since you're not hacking off a bunch of green tissue all the time, and when you go out to mow it, the grass is healthier. The plant's healthier. It can sustain disease better. It can hold up against weed intrusion better. Since you're mowing every day, the weeds don't have a chance to really get established because you're not letting them get established because you're mowing that off. I mean, mowing is one of the most important cultural practices that is done in turf. And when you can automate it to a point where you can control that environment a little bit more, and you can set those people that would be doing other things to other items, you really get the benefit of it. And I think, from an environmental standpoint as well, as the grass is healthier, there's less requirement for fertilizer. Right? We're actually finding now that, over fertilization is somewhat of an issue when it comes to automation. You don't need it. And, the grass looks fantastic without having to put all those inputs in. Less water, that part of it, and that help to the environment is part of what makes me passionate about the space and why I do, why I'm in this, in the first place, why I got into horticulture and agronomy to begin with. So all those items together really, really set it off for me.
Yeah, well, and actually, speaking of the environmental part, I will kind of use this point for a plug. I know those guys got set up with AGSA. Also, AGSA verified your equipment and their certification, which is a huge milestone for you guys. So congratulations on that. And talk about the environmental side, like that's the part that no one talks about. It's like people get stuck in it's automation. So how much money am I going to save? And one of the things I hope to get out of the show today is to actually be able to show some of the value adds, environmental value, the fact that, there is that electric component, but you're not using huge amperage. One of the things that I'm really, really passionate about and I speak about is like all these people coming out with these big automatic zero turns that are taking, let's say, 20 amps to charge at a minimum. Our machines, I say our because we're partners, but use much less amperage, and you don't need the infrastructure to charge that you would for our system. And since our system, as you said earlier, Jake, it's one set minded, it cuts and charges. They're not all charging at the same time. So when you look at a typical fleet operation, let's say you're a golf course, or let's say you're a professional landscaper, you're going to cut all day and you're going to charge all night. Or if you're a golf course, you're going to start cutting at 4 o'clock in the morning. And at the end of the day, you're going to have all your golf carts charging at the same time as all of your electric equipment. And you need all sorts of power to do it. And one of the things that I think that automation is also doing, and when you're looking at the environmental side and the electric charging side, is it's taking small gulps of energy throughout a 24-hour period, and each robot is typically doing it at a different time. So there's much less strain to the grid. And I think this is something that doesn't ever really get talked about. And hopefully maybe this is the first time it's actually been brought up on a podcast and it gets talked about more in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And we have here in our facility a robot that has been working for 3 years, 100% on solar. So we have 2 small panels, a little battery to be able to go through the night. And this robot has been never plugged to the grid. So definitely the little energy that we need, the fact you mentioned, I mean, spot on. Like if you have a large fleet of robots and you have to charge them all at the same time during the night, you have to evolve into your infrastructure, making sure you have enough power to charge all these. It's already a challenge for golf courses to put enough power for all the carts that they have to charge. Now, if they have to do robots and mowers, it's another challenge for them to add this. So I think that's a really important item, the consumption and the little energy we use. I think in the environment, I would also mention that the noise is a big improvement. We've been in many golf courses where you have houses around and they are not allowed to start to cut before 7 or during the night. Well, our robot doesn't care. They make less noise than a dishwasher. So therefore, people don't even realize that we've been cutting. We have other applications like schools or municipality where we cut only during the night when people are not using those fields, whether it's a sports field or a school playground. And the neighbor don't even realize. They just see that it's pristine every single day. It's cut. It's perfect. The kids know that there is a robot. They usually call the robot Wally, or they give a name for the robots, but they don't even see it playing. They don't even see cutting. So this is also a safe. But I said the noise is really a big improvement, I think, from these bigger machines.
Yeah. Well, and right now we're talking about cutting, but when we go back to the picking and on the driving ranges, and we talk about the differences to the Echo RP 1200 and 1250, which let's say it bluntly, probably 1250 from here on out, because most people don't want random anymore. There's a few outliers, but let's talk about the turf benefits that the 1250 brings, because one of the things that I've been getting really passionately, screw it, I've been irritated about it, is I've been irritated that people keep on asking me about what my thoughts are about the competition that's coming in range picking. And I know what the benefits of the Echo product is in range picking. But I would give you guys the opportunity to talk about it because, I can tell you with certainty I'm going to start doing some still shots when I start my subscription models on driving ranges a year later or 2 years later, and show the increase in turf health and quality. And it is a combination of the picker and the cutter. So I don't want you to go ahead and explain what I'm talking about.
So I think one of the main reasons that you see that is generally just weight and speed when it comes to the picker and in turn. Our picking wheel lifts up every turn, so you're not dragging it around and pulling at turf, and it's lightweight. So you're not going over the same areas over and over again with a very, very much heavier piece of equipment. And it allows it to work in specific areas. So you can control the areas it's going into. You can create geo-defined zones for it to work if an area is seeing too much wear. And again, it's relentless. It's going constantly. But the real beauty of the future of where ball picking has to go is something that you've tied into. We can all pick golf balls. Picking a golf ball is a great thing, and taking it to a location is something we can do. What you do after the golf ball gets dropped is a critical component to operations. And we're finding that we have a great solution for the range itself to pick. And we're getting to a really good spot. But again, we need to take it that one step further and move the automation of the balls and the ball washing. And I think that's really where the sweet spot's at. And people like yourself, and there's some other ones out in the world that have created some of these types of solutions. I think that's where the real benefit's going to be long-term for a lot of these golf operations.
Yeah, and I would add that, and it's the same in the mowing part of it. The efficiency has driven the manufacturer to build bigger machine, whether it has more discs to pick up the balls, whether it has a bigger deck to cut the grass. When you go into automation, in some case, you need to get some good size. I mean, you cannot take care of an extremely large area with only very small residential robots, obviously, but the efficiency can be doubled very easily. Just add another machine. And that's the beauty. So you can still have the advantage of being lighter and all the, lifting up the disc and all the technology that we bring, but keep the efficiency by adding another machine because you don't need an operator. It's just the same machine that works with the same environment, that with the same base station for the RTK, with the same drop pit for the ball management system. So definitely that's where people need to think a bit differently, because until now they've been, oh, I need to pick more balls. Okay, let's just get a bigger one. No, just get another one, just get a twin. And then it works, and they work in tandem, and they break the ball, and it go and fit well. So this is where the efficiency need to be really well explained, so that the golf course don't go into this, I need a bigger machine and a bigger machine. No, you just need to duplicate a little bit the automation that we have.
Yeah, so I'm going to add to that. I can't tell you how many times I go talk to a club and they call me because their picker is down. Not their automated picker, just the picker that they have is down. But yeah, they're the same club that wishes our machine was larger. One of the things that I would say is, going off what you said, Benjamin, is why would anybody want one big machine? Because when one big machine goes down, you're screwed. When one smaller machine goes down, like I just love, for instance, they have 4 machines. If once one of those machines goes down, I literally get a phone call, or the technician gets a phone call. We go into the app that you guys have, which is a great app. We change a couple GDZ picking zones. We move one robot over, and it picks up both of those areas. They still bring golf balls back. The members don't even know there's a problem. There's nothing to panic about. Technician shows up, we fix the robot, and then we put the GDZ back the way it was, and everything's back. That's what automation does, and that's what automating with smaller equipment can do. Now, I do understand, for me, it has been a little different with our subscription model, because what I've been able to offer is I've been giving discounts in the subscription model, so that if someone does do a second machine, I'll discount the subscription. And I do that for 2 reasons. A, it gives a better user experience because there's less anxiety on their end. What happens if my picker goes down? And B, it allows to be able to still service the customer, and it gives the technician, lastly, it takes a little stress off the technician when they're fixing the one machine. By the way, when I say fixing, I mean, there's basic stuff. It's basic preventative maintenance, and that's stuff that people always don't talk about in the automation. Is they're like, yeah, I'm going to buy this robot, it's going to do its thing. And it's why I've been always such an advocate for our fully serviced subscription model. And going back to Jake, you said a couple of minutes ago that there's other people in the space that are dropping balls into a pit. I had a LinkedIn post the other day, and people have been commenting about it. And I made a bold statement, and I'm going to make the bold statement again. Right now, I said I don't have competition. And what I mean by not having competition is I don't believe there's anyone in the space that is cutting, picking, and washing on a driving range while protecting the golf balls on a driving range in a full subscription model that allows the club that chooses to partner with us to not have any down payment. They make their first month's payment, we do the install, we insure the equipment, and they're operational. Right now, I don't have competition in that space. Now, if I inspire competition in the space, in that market, that's great, because in my opinion, that is what will move us forward. And to go a little further, and then I'll let you guys start to comment as my guests. But the other thing is, I'm a firm believer that had I not been doing this in subscription, I would have never realized that I needed to bring the Ballwash management system to the United States. And the reason is, I've said this many times, because our team was out servicing the equipment, preventatively servicing and optimizing. Don't let me forget about optimization of the equipment. But I would have never met the people performing the work washing the golf balls. And I told my team, as the leader of AOS, that it was my vision to become a company of the people, not just a company of the C-suite decision makers. So I saw the Ballwash system as a way to get a warm embrace and a high five from the people on the driving range, because washing the golf ball is the hardest thing they have to do.
But that's a really good point. Yeah.
Yes. You know, I mean, when you look at, you know, take AOS out of the equation, because you guys have other partners in the space. And by the way, I want to say this out loud to the other partners you have in the space. The ball wash system that I brought here to this country is not only for AOS. If you're a dealer or a partner of Echo and you want to add ball wash system to your customer, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's make this fully circular. And I'm saying it out loud on my show today, so there's no trepidation. No one's wondering. You know, let's get it set up. I have ways to do this, but it's because when you look at some of the calls that we got about the equipment, it's likely throughout a period of time where the people that are on the range almost want to say they don't like the equipment because the easiest part of their job was picking. But when we put it all together, they love it. So give me your guys' opinions on that. Whoever wants to chime into that thought process or take us down the path.
Yeah, I think, well, it's true that if you bring automation, you have to add value. And we're the manufacturer of the robots. But we always knew that there was a missing element that we are not bringing. We do not manufacture ball management system. We do not have a solution. So there were more solutions in Europe when they started first in Europe, and we adapt to those solutions. But when we started in the US, it was difficult to find the right partner to have those solutions. And so we designed a wooden ramp, and wooden ramp was great to start with, but it's not the final solution. You need to get completely the cycle automated to get the full benefit of the automatic picking. Automatic picking, and you mentioned like people were kind of like not so happy because picking is the easy part of it. They sit on I mean, even though they become a target for the golfer, but they sit on a cart and they try to pick up as much ball as they can. But the tough one is to bring these to a location, to clean these, to bring it back to the customer. And I think that really making sure that people now understand that we're bringing a full solution that allow them to do something different. And now what their focus should not be on making sure that there is ball picked, there is ball clean. They should focus on making sure that the players are happy, that the player understand how to use these new technology that we see more and more on the golf courses. Make sure in some places, make sure that the customer have towels, have drinks, whatever they need to get in order. So the user experience is not just, oh, it's fun to see robot picking up, or it's not like fun to see a Roomba in your house. You know, it's the whole support that they can get. And also purely from a golf course point of view, I mean, all these is a cost. And what we've seen recently is really difficult for golf course to find people. So if we can do this, basically the golf course can still keep the quality and the support and the service to those customers, even though that they are keeping exactly the same work, which is picking up, cleaning up, but also taking care of the customer. So I think, yeah.
There was a marketing video when I first started. And it was made by our counterparts in Europe. They've been doing this for a lot longer than we have here. And the marketing video was basically a natural way. And you've seen it, Joe. I've shown it to you probably when we first started talking. The pizzazz of that whole marketing video is not necessarily the robots. It's good. It showcases the robots. But the questions you get are, how do they manage the balls to get to that house? And how is it that one woman video she's the only one touching a golf ball? It's a great world to live in. And it's every pro's dream that you can send a customer to the range and let them have the golf ball. The only person that touches the golf ball is the person hitting it. And I think at the end of the day, that's what everybody's striving for. So, we talked about this earlier in your podcast, today is like, it's cutting edge. We've got to keep pushing it forward. And the ability to keep pushing it forward in that space is going to really drive home a lot more automation, I think, in range picking across the country, more so than the robots, just because you've got to have that full solution. And that's what we strive for. We strive to support, you to try to, bring that to the market and help that. And the fact that you just offered it up to all of the customer base in North America, good for you. It'd be good for your business, but is telling. It shows your passion in wanting to get it out and get it into the space and really see what we can do.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing about it is, I said this the other day, that North American space is such a wide open space. If you don't say things like I said, like, hey, let's call me up, let's get a Ballwash system out there. It'd be like going to an all you can eat buffet and then blocking someone from getting in line. Right? By the time you clear the food on your plate, they will already have new food in the buffet. And the person behind you would have got to fill their plate also. And that is, I think, one of the things that I'm so passionate about is it's mind-boggling to me sometimes because there's already all these like lines in the sand that are being drawn in an industry that has less than 1% saturation. So it's like we're drawing lines in like nothing. There's not even enough sand to put a line in yet. But there's all these weird alliances that are being made is where I'm looking at it like saying, okay, let's not look at where we are today. Let's look at where things are going to be in 10 years, And even in get there with me, you have to think about what a driving range looked like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you didn't have Pack Tracer and TrackMan, And now you go to these high-end club reps that haven't. Benjamin, as you know, we talked about it yesterday, one of the people that had made a comment on one of the posts saying they want to see smiling faces. Well, there are smiling faces when they're helping people use the Top Tracer and TrackMan technology, right? One of the things that I've identified, I realized the other day that because of the landscape of the snow company, I interviewed and had easily 1,000 people come and go in my life that have been team members of mine. And I think even though I'm in my mid-40s, I'm still a young mid-40s because I have so many young people that work with me. And I think this 20-some-year-old generation of worker is always misunderstood because they've been using technology their whole life. So talk about the smiling faces. If you hire someone at a golf course and a driving range and say, hey, your job is going to be to teach people how to download that TrackMan app or how to use that Pack Tracer technology so you can better your game, because when you can start hitting at the target on the driving range and TrackMan or Pack Tracer tells you did it, you'll become a better golfer. But I'm going to help you use that technology. You have a happy team member. And maybe that team member ends up deciding, I want to stay in golf and I'm going to get all the PGA qualifications. Like that is what it is. And that's what I'm so inspired why I do the show, to get people to think like that, right? Because now that's where our technology is going to be. It's going to be at the golf courses and the driving ranges that need people to teach technology, right? And then from there, and I'll make this 10-year out statement. The clubs and the people that can't see how they put it in their budget. This is why I love my service and subscription model. Is the 10% of people that do understand what we're doing together now are going to be the same people want the product when you add vision or whatever you guys are going to have to put in a few years. And then the people that couldn't do it, you can take the product that came from the high-end club when they add a technology. And that's what I'm excited about, because that's what I see happening in the future of our space. Is you'll eventually it'll be like a new car and used car market. That's what'll happen. So talk about past and present. Something I want to get to. I want to kind of pivot back to. So, Jake, do you remember the first time we ever met? Like,
I think so. Yeah, I think it was the GIE show, and it was well before we became partners. I remember you came in and you were asking some questions, good questions, and it's one of those things where our ships kind of passed. I think that first time it was a good conversation. Every time with you is a good conversation. But I think it was a couple of years later, a year down the road that I kind of reached out and said, "Hey, you got a really awesome business. Do you want to sell our product?" And you're like, "Hey, yeah, absolutely, I do." And that rest is kind of in history. Humble beginnings for the largest purveyor of our equipment in North America, for sure. So,
Well, thank you for recognizing me for that. And so I brought this moment up because I need to tell people. So this is what makes Echo a unique brand. So what when I met you guys, I was so used to just getting partnerships with ease. Right? It's like if I talk to a robotic brand, they're like, "Hey, you want to sell a robot? Let's do it." And that didn't happen when I met you. And I found myself walking away a little bit with my tail tucked between my legs, which that doesn't want to happen for me, you know? And I was kind of like, I think, how I'm not selling it on yet, you know? I was, they where you call. And, looking back to that day when we met, that's when I was just learning like the landscape professional and how I use it. But, you know, honestly, I would not have been exposed to this world of golf if it had not been for Echo Robotics. And I want to publicly thank you guys for actually taking me under your wing and bringing me into that space, because I remember the first PGA show that you guys ever brought me to, a competing brand that I'll just nameless, but they came up to the booth and said, "Hey, are you that landscaper thinking you're getting in golf?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "You'll never be in golf." And they walked away, and here we are talking about golf and driving ranges, and I'm in golf because of Echo Robotics. So thank you guys for that. Very genuinely. It's a very genuine thank you.
Yeah, and
So
it's
now that
interesting. It's interesting you mentioned that it was not that easy that you were expecting to just ever say, "Yeah, go and let's start." We know the product is not the easiest one. And it's because it's very flexible. It's got all the opportunity that we can do. We have to make sure that, at the end of the day, even though you sell it or install it or service it, it still have a brand on the robot. And it's also why it took such a long time between the time where we started working with that company in Europe and now have it under Echo brand, and making sure that it's, it fits the brand, and we are careful about working with partners that we value, that we know that they are strong enough to go into this market and be capable of developing the market, doing the service. Because, people always, I find it interesting, it's people complaining that we're taking people's job. First of all, the big thing that we do is we're filling the empty spot that people cannot find people to do this, but we're also switching and bringing much more added value job. You talk about the smile and the kids explaining to people how to use top tracer, TrackMan. That's one part, but the other thing is also all the technician that you will need and you have now that have probably a higher level of, and they learn more something that they more probably passionate about, more than just sitting on the mower all day long. And so this is just an evolution of the job. It's not replacing anybody's job. It's just switching the job or evolution of the job so that it becomes more technical. And this is why we want to make sure that if we partner with somebody, we want to make sure that, yeah, he's willing to do this, he's willing to invest and to bring this to the next level and to develop the way you did it and did it pretty well. So
I would say
Well-
the space selling robots, especially our robots, not for the faint of heart, as you well know. There's a lot of growing pains involved with it. There's a lot of training. There's a lot of tough days. But it makes up for it, because once you finally get it down and you've got the program in and you've got your process in place, it does wonders. And I think you can testify to that firsthand, just kind of how you made it through the whole progression to get to where you're at. So.
Yeah. And I understand on that. So first, I'm going to go to what Benjamin was saying about the jobs. I say all the time, we may be taking some jobs, but we're creating careers. This space is creating careers. So for every job that's sacrificed, there's a career made. Okay. And anybody that wants to challenge me on that thought, come see me at AOS in Illinois. And we just bought 4 more F-150s. And I just hired more technicians, and we went from the day I met you from a team of 3 people to we have 20 technicians now. And that is proof to it. And anyone that doesn't see it should just sit on the bench, because you're just not, you're not here yet. You're just not ready for it. And so that's that. And then talking about the installation being a little bit more complex. It's interesting because I said this the other day. I was in the conversation with actually another one of the partners, and we were both. I was saying it's his name. Scott and I were both talking about this. And what I said was, in the beginning, I thought it kind of sucked. It was more complicated, but what it was, it forces the technicians to do it right when they do the install, which actually drives the reset rate down. So, this is one thing that I can do that most others can't, being brand agnostic, is I can actually monitor reset rates. And I can say on an average day with Echo, I only have to send a technician out to 3 to 5% of my fleet with Echo. And the only reason it goes from 3 to 5% is a lot of it just depends on weather, since we're down in Florida so much, right? And there is no other brand right now that I have such a low reset rate with. And I'll probably get into the next thing, which is I was going to ask you guys about the differentiator, your RTK technology, and the different types of that. But I think it's a combination of there's more inputs when you do an echo install, so it forces you to make sure you're good. And Matt Gordon, I hope you listen to this one, because in the past I used to get so pissed off that you would have to verify the site before we could activate a robot. But the reality of it is, there is no other manufacturer in the game right now that wants to look at a map before a robot goes there. So there is a check and balance, because you guys are very proud of your brand. You guys are as proud of your brand as I am of mine. And as our relationship evolves, it actually makes me appreciate, even though Jake, as you know, some days I'm in a little different mood than I am right now. Some days I don't appreciate it so much. When you look at it in retrospect from a bigger picture perspective, it gives a better member experience. And even down in those reset rates, I will say, like, one of the things I really like about your guys' app is it really allows me to optimize in my subscription model. And this is something that never gets talked about. I'm glad I just kind of stumbled on it. Is when I come to shows with you guys, or even Site One, I do need to talk about the partnership also with Site One for AOS. But people assume, like, man, how much is AOS charging just to keep the equipment running? People need to understand we're optimizing the equipment. And how we optimize the equipment is Echo's app is really great. It's basically showing you where there's a problem. Okay. It'll give a little spot on the map. And I could literally tell my technicians, here, when you go to do preventative maintenance, go take this map and go look at all those little pinpoints, figure out what the environmental problem is, and optimize it. Put it in a stay out zone, fill the hole, change the border, change the GDZ zone. And that's what's actually what I want to say to people that are listening that's really awesome about Echo is, with Echo, you can make a safety zone, then have a GDZ zone inside of a safety zone. So I'm going to give an example. We did an install at a golf course this spring. Actually, we should talk about that. Knollwood, 96 acres of rough, 18 holes in Illinois. It's amazing to me, and hardly gets any press compared to some of these other golf courses that other manufacturers do. And they're not even doing the whole golf course. We're doing 18 holes, 96 acres. And for some reason, and maybe one of you guys speak to this, but I think as the season goes on, the wax layer on the leaf must just get thicker. I don't really know. But all of a sudden, we have notification. Actually, the tree probably grew 6 inches and just gave a little bigger shadow. Who knows? But I didn't have to remap it. I just had to change the GDZ zone. I literally left the safety zone as it was. I took a new technician, showed him how to basically take the GDZ, pull the map back a little bit, get it out of that tree shadow, and the unit's running, right? These are the things that never get talked about. And I want to expose it on the show today. But even though the front end is hard, with Echo, keeping them running oftentimes is easier. And that's, everyone should hear that and understand that. So now that I've said all that, I want to actually give you guys some time to explain. We went from wired, then you guys had the Wi-Fi beacon, and then you went right to the Wise nav. Does one of you guys want to explain the difference between those two technologies and how those technologies work?
Yeah, so I would say that, as you mentioned, the first target for us is to make sure that the final user is happy. and making sure that the robot is doing the work it's meant to be. So I know that we could, in some places, we could take some shortcut, but that would create issues and they would have an impact on the final user's perception of the product and technology. So when we first went from a wired robot that was completely random, we introduced the Wi-Fi RTK, which means we had a base that was giving the signal, the triangulation that the robot needs to go straight, but we would still require the wire. We did that for a while, and then obviously that fits smaller area because Wi-Fi has a limitation in terms of the distance we can cover and transfer this correction that the robot needs to receive in order to go straight. And then we went and developed the 4G. And once we developed the 4G, we realized that basically we can have one base in one location, and within it's 5, but we can even go higher than 5 miles around this base, and you can have as many robots as you want. And all these robots will receive through 4G data. They will receive the correction that allow them to go straight. And then once we had that, we just decide to develop the wireless and removing this boundary wire because we had the precision required in order to forget about the wire. The wire has always been an option, and it's still an option today. If you want, you can still use the wire as the ultimate, I would say, fence. But now the technology-wise now that we have, especially working with the 4G, can allow us to, as you mentioned in Norwood, we can have one base that is put at the workshop and is actually controlling all these 6 robots to take care of those holes, and they work without the wire. The only wire that we still require is the one that brings the robot to the charging station, or in some location, we are still using the wire for particular, whether it's under the trees, whether it's in location where we have a bad signal because it's the narrow area between the building and the forest or whatever. We can still use the wire. So we have this hybrid and flexible technology. But I would say probably now 95 to close to 99% of the installation that we do are wireless and use the 4G because it's so convenient. Especially once we go into larger projects like golf courses, municipalities. We have location in university, like in Tulsa University, they have 11 robots, and all those 11 robots around the campuses are using one base, which is in the workshop. We have a city in Idaho that has 2 golf courses, but they are close enough to use the same base. And now we're working on trying to expand into sports field that they manage. So definitely we think that this 4G has helped us, especially in North America, to go through bigger projects, to develop in the golf industry, and bringing the flexibility that we want. The line of sight has always been an issue. And the issue that we found with the Wi-Fi is that we are focusing on larger area. Our smallest robot now in RTK is I would say, between 5, 7, even up to 10 acres. With a Wi-Fi, you're not gonna be able to cover such an area. So now with the 4G, you can have as much as you want, and this is really what listening to the customer, but also going step by step and understanding. Okay, here's one step that we've done. Here's the advantage of this one step. People like the stripe, people like the pattern, but we have another issue. Let's fix that issue, and going step by step give us the I would say the efficiency, but also making sure that at the end we have an optimized product and we don't bring something by doing shortcut and cutting short and bringing an unfinished product in the market.
Yeah, I can say personally, the WiseNet beacon that you guys have has just been exceptional, and it's because from an installation or installer standpoint, you set one up and then everything runs off that unit, and then I don't have to worry about losing line of sight or the smaller stuff. And then, honestly, when you're on these big sites and golf courses, the biggest limitation to us is power. Where can we plug that in? So by not having one centralized beacon, that's just one more thing we have to plug in if we have, multiple units all over. So, that's really been great for us. And then to kind of get into the ball wash side of it, I I cannot wait this year for all the shows and PGA and even the next CMA show I go to, because what we can do for clubs now by automating the entire driving range, I think together, I think is really what's been needed. Because I said, Ben, you brought up earlier, it's like a bowling alley now. It's like you bowl the ball and it comes and rolls right back again. Throw it down the lane again. And even with the time on turf health, just like because I understand in this too, is sometimes I get on these driving ranges and I walk them, their turf looks thin because they have so many plugged golf balls. And our system helps with the plugged golf balls because our system's not running over the golf balls because they're over driving them. So, knowing like some of the things that you guys have seen in other parts of the world, like Reginald, we were talking about this earlier. You said there are some Ballwash systems in other places. I will say the reason I brought this Ballwash when you guys kind of showed different people is because of the ability for this one to not deal with flooding rains or deal with flooding rains because it uses air actuation. So for the people listening to the show, what our system does, I'm going to explain how it works with Echo. So the Echo Robots base station has a board that basically, when the arm is triggered, it triggers a relay. That relay triggers our system. Our system turns the vacuum on. And our system is actually electric over pneumatic. So what our system does is in the actual pit itself, the only electronics that are there is a 24-volt water valve. That's the only electric in the pit. So when I bring up the flooding, the opportunity to flood, especially in Florida, our system, the worst thing that's going to happen is my air actuator is moving back and forth. It's going to blow bubbles. That's about what it comes down to. So that's why I chose to bring this system to the United States. And I also picked this system because AMS works so extensively with Bell Robotics in the UK, and there was plenty of systems for me to go take a look at. So, one of the things I want to say as we start to close the show out is what Echo Robotics and now AOS has done is we brought technology that's already been working somewhere else into this country. We're not developing something new and asking people that might be listening to the show to be our guinea pig. We're basically asking you guys and girls that are listening to the show to trust the fact that we've vetted the best technology to bring to North America. And we're just asking for you guys to believe in us to put it out to solve your problems. And that's what's been so exciting for me to work with you guys on bringing this to the United States, is because it honestly allowed me to act more like the visionary I want to by importing a product that I know would solve a problem. So,
I find it interesting, at many shows when I go there and you meet people for the first time, it's like, oh, is it new technology? I'm like, nope. It's been there for like 10, 15 years. We have more than 10,000 robots in the world in different areas. And I know there are still some challenge. I mean, Florida, let's be honest, it was not an easy location for robots. There's a lot of the turf is different. The weather definitely has an impact, and we have to think about it. But that's for us to develop further functions or bringing new technology to the market as well. But yeah, we've been using those robots for a long time. Same for the ball management system. So it's not, you're right when you say we're not going to test those units with every users here. Is we're just bringing the best product that is being validated for many years into this market, which is now developing. And hopefully we bring the solution that will fit whatever they need. And if it does not fit, we will adapt it to fit it. And to really make sure that the market and the users are thrilled by the results that they see and really enjoy and talk about it. Because we've seen a lot of golf courses, once you have one, the neighboring golf courses talk about it, and then they finally start to contact you or us and say, hey, I want the same thing in my golf course.
Yeah, and also having the fact that you brought it in, also leaves the door open for your audience to know that, we're still working on a lot of these great, innovations that were maybe done someplace else to try to innovate them further for our market. We've got different grasses here. We've got different expectations here. And, you're at the cutting edge of seeing those and implementing changes and giving us feedback so that we can try to implement changes in ours. And I think that's where this comes from. That's how we get better together.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when you look at, um, what we're doing on driving ranges together, I always say it's the point of automation infection, right? Because any people that are not believers, when they go and they practice out on a driving range, I mean, heck, it happened at the BMW Classic in Colorado. They're practicing on the driving range and they see the stuff running and moving around. They see how great the driving range looks with the perfect pattern stripes cut in the driving range. It's like usually the part that people care least about. And then when you put it in probably the most hostile environment, it's on a golf course. I mean, it's just getting bombarded with golf balls all the time. Then people are like, oh, wow, if it works there, it'll probably work every place else, And that's what I say. It's like, I always tell people, give me one pain point, let me start there. Ironically, Noel Wood Club, their pain point was lower rough earth. I never had a situation where I mowed rough before I did a driving range, right? But now I'm sure we'll get the driving range eventually. And that's what's awesome about the space. And that's where I go back to like that all you can eat buffet line right now is before we've not even hit the adoption curve yet. Is right now I feel like we're struggling. I don't want to say struggling. I feel like I work really hard to acquire a customer. Right? There's a lot of trust that has to get built to acquire a customer. But this industry will one day turn into an order taking industry. And when that happens, you're going to want to make sure you send your order to the right partner, because the right partner is going to not only put the equipment out, but they're going to optimize the equipment and they're going to make sure they're actually solving a problem for you and they're not just selling you something.
Yeah, and this is very important because we have rejected some requests to become dealers just because it was like, hey, how are you going to install it? Oh, I'm just going to sell it. Well, that's not going to work. We know that you have to get the service part of it and to follow up on this customer and to be together with the customer and when they have issues or just for the basic, just the maintenance. People forget that they need to clean those robots. And so that's one thing that, sometimes you have to remind the people. So that's where having people that has this knowledge of and the level of quality of service in mind makes it success versus just telling it to somebody and then that somebody say, hey, now you're on your own, good luck. That doesn't work with this type of product. And I think you're the proof of it, because you go just with the service. I mean, just your focus is really on the service and making sure that the product is part of your service. So it means that if that product has an issue, well, you bring another one and you save it, or you bring a technician and you solve the issue. But the service is really the element that makes the difference, and that's the big difference between us or the commercial type of product that we have versus probably a residential, which is more like it's consumable. Hey, if it's not working because it's been damaged, well, you throw it away, you buy a new one. Ours is like it can be serviced, it can be optimized, it can be adapted with new technology that comes in, and that's the evolution of the product that we have.
Well, and I mean, I'll attest to that. Being someone that owns for people listening, you guys can comment on this too, because it's been part of our relationship evolution. It's like it's always a strange thing for me because it's like I'm a dual agent sometimes. It's like I'm a distributor, dealer / end user, right? So I'm owning most of the equipment that goes out the door, like you just said, in the service model. And when you guys had the random, and then we went to RPK, I was able to upgrade your equipment. I was able to literally have you guys take that random technology, turn it into pattern. It really allowed me to offset a lot of expense that I would have assumed otherwise. I just had to buy something new, and what am I going to do with all this other stuff now, right? And the other thing that's interesting about your product is even though when people see it, they see a plastic exterior shell. It is a metal. It's actually stainless steel, right? Stainless steel shell. What's the frame?
The chassis,
Yeah, chassis.
sure. Aluminum or
It's either aluminum or stainless steel because I've never.
I think
seen
it's
it welded
aluminum, but
rust.
I think it's
Yeah.
aluminum, but yeah.
But either way,
I'm not the designer, sorry.
but yeah, that's okay. So
Non-metallurgist.
so either way though, very heavy duty freight,
Yes.
on this unit. And going back to what I said earlier about being able to take some of the startup now from a high-end club. When I say high-end clubs, I mean I'm in some clubs right now. You guys know with people listening, like it's $1,375,000 a year buy-in membership. So I mean, either the most elite golf clubs you can think of in the United States right now using our products. And when those clubs are going to want new stuff every few years. So it's so easy for me to refurbish your product because I have this steel frame that I can clean. I can put new casters on it, new wheels, and put a new shell on it. And to the end user, looks great. Still has the same technology, still performs the same service, and that's really why I'm always so excited about our relationship and our future together is because I can plan for the future with Echo Robotics, and that's what's been really great about the relationship, and even down to, I'll say like when we started going down the path of the Ballwash and me bringing in the system with Phil Sear from the UK, I found myself sitting on the plane the one day being like, man, why is Echo even letting me do this? Like I literally, I have to say this, like this was a thought that went through my mind, like, why is Echo letting me be the guy to bring this here? Because in my mind, you guys were so nice and helpful in putting that relationship together. But that is the thing that's the differentiator. Right? If anybody listening to this is wondering about a brand or who they want to partner with, that's been the differentiator for me personally with Echo, is that there's never a moment I go to sleep at night wondering if I can trust the people that you see on the screen right now. Like I always trust that our visions are aligned and we're going to reach the destination faster together. And that's the feeling I always get with Echo. And I want to thank you again for that because, the space is like, it can be very political and very taxing on your like emotions, for things that are happening. But you guys have always been different. And I really want the people to listen to the show to understand. And I don't think anyone will turn the show off today and not understand how I feel about Echo Robotics.
Well, I think that's the essence of the partnership that we have. And as you mentioned, it started a few years ago. And again, I mean, maybe we were thinking, oh, he's crazy. He's going on his own to UK to bring this ball management system. But it was just like, we need to make it happen. If we want to be successful, we better be successful. And Joe is the one that I think we can be successful with. And he's going to go and bring this ball management system to the US and we're going to work and make it. I remember the first time that you were installing it and we were just like, we need to see it. We need to help you. We need to make sure that, because we have some slight difference between the European version and the US version, especially in the charging station. And we wanted to make sure that you was going to go to a success and not having an issue because of that. So I think it's the great relationship that we have that allow us to, challenge yourself and you challenge us and we challenge you and we go and grow together. That's a great partnership. So for that, I really appreciate what you're saying about us, but that goes in the other way around. We're also really pleased to work with you. And it's like been I would not say a quiet ride. It's tough. It's a new market. It's developing. It's bringing new product. They are up and down, but I think that definitely has been extremely beneficial for both of us.
Yeah, they were very kind words, Joe. Appreciate that, the kind words, and been great to work with, and it always hasn't been roses, obviously, but it's always I like to say we're all pushing the boulder up the same hill, and I feel like we're all on the same side, trying to get this adopted in the marketplace for all robotics, and really create some saturation so that we can grow, what we see in other parts of the world here in North America, and it's important to have partners like yourself, and honestly, we're a manufacturer. The installation component of a ball wash system is infinitely more important than actually the components itself. So, having somebody with the ability to pull off that type of installation is critical to its success, and that's the main reason we introduced you to Phil. So
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and going back to the other Echo partners that are out there that maybe will listen to the show, I can appreciate that maybe some of you guys would be like, well, I really want to talk to AOS directly or whatever, but that's why I set up the relationship with Site One. So it's important for people to hear this on the show is, I set Site One up to be a distributor of the ball wash system also. So, if you're another dealer of Echo and you just want to go to kind of keep it clean, you can purchase the AOS ball wash system from any Site One location in the United States. So they'll actually ship it to that Site One location, and you can get it. And also, I would be very willing to take you to any of the locations that I have it working to show how to install the system, because I can understand it right now. Like I said, there's a lot of convincing to get someone to trust in my brand. So I could understand why your other partners would want to make sure that they keep that loyalty inside their brand. So, I do believe I have a way forward to insulate your other partners to be able to keep that customer as theirs while teaching them how to put the system in. Because, like I said, it's the rising tide raises all ships type of approach with automation. So frankly, the faster that our ball wash system is connected to your robots, the more golf courses in this country are going to want to do automation, right? Because I know our system plain out works. It's plain and simple. It works. And that's why I would partner with the other people. So with that, I think that might be a pretty good spot to say this one might be in the books. What do you guys think?
no, sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys again for being on the show. Maybe what we need to do is start doing like a yearly update on all the crazy stuff we're working on together, because I can tell you that it's evolving very quickly, and there's a lot that happens behind the scenes, and we're putting out a lot of robots together. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.